Hey, what's up everybody? BDL 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so this video is probably going to get cut short because my battery's dying fast, 26%, and I got about an hour of walking to go, and this person almost got in a car accident, and it's probably good to follow the lights when you drive. Definitely a good idea not to run them. But anyway, yeah, so the day after the Laker press conference, I don't really have much to add to what I said last night in response to, or rather in reaction to it. I thought it was a pretty solid interview, or press conference rather. Provided us some preliminary insight to what their expectations are for the unit, and that they're excited, and that, you know, they would be willing to throw in 2 picks for the right type of trade, but obviously that hasn't come along. So, you know, we're just going to start the season what we have, and I think that's fair, as I said last night. So, you know, if anything, I'm just ready to get started, man. I understand that training camp is not necessarily going yet. Yesterday I said I hadn't seen any footage of training camp. I don't think it's actually started. It might be starting today or something like that. I'm not really sure, but, you know, looking forward to whatever the heck the team is going to put together out there, man. We're going to root for it regardless, but at this point we just gotta wait and see. It's a wait and see approach. Expectations aren't high, and, you know, I think that's the way it's supposed to be right now. You know, I think we've lofted far too high expectations on this roster over the last several years, and it's fallen short. And I think a lot of that was foreseeable because the team wasn't run by a coach who was very good. And we didn't really have a coach that we could trust out there at the helm. So I don't know how much one would expect from the team under those circumstances, coupled with the injury issues that, you know, provided an excuse, but not really a reality of what would increase our expectations to the highest level, which is an NBA championship. And so our team, you know, we want to see them play well. Obviously, we want to see them go out there and stay healthy first, compete, win maybe an in-season tournament or something like that. But as far as just winning the championship, I just think that that's a bit of a lofty expectation, a lofty goal for a unit that isn't quite constructed to just destroy the field. Now, if we get the right couple of circumstances fall into place, maybe you get the right path. We've seen stranger things happen. Teams that haven't been particularly great all year long have gone on to win a championship. We saw the Golden State Warriors do that a few years ago. So when you have this type of talent on the team with Bron and AD, maybe you can feel optimistic that you might be able to squeeze together a good regular season, and maybe you might have some things fall into your position, fall into place. Maybe the right type of injuries. I mean, look at Boston last year. Yeah, were they the best team in the league all year? Yeah, but if you look at the path that they took in the playoffs, everything fell right for them not really to be tested all the way through. I still am waiting for the Boston Celtics to play a team that actually competed against them. You know what I mean? I mean, injuries really depleted everybody they ran into. So when you consider that, you just say, well, let's just run out there and see what we can do. You know, LeBron James has made 1 million NBA finals in his career, so why not think that he can drag something else to the finals one last time, you know? Extra motivation that his son's on his team, his good friend JJ Redick's coaching the team, got some years in the tank with Anthony Davis, so the chemistry should be ironclad, so to speak. I don't see why we can't be excited about possibly getting some things that may fall into place in the form of luck, and then from there maybe having some team, you know, run into us and not be all that healthy, and, you know, good things can happen. That's really what you're hoping for if you're a Laker fan. It's not really about you just being better than everybody else. You just got to stay healthy, compete, win the close games, take care of the games you're supposed to win, and let everything else fall into place. And so hopefully that's what we can see. Hopefully that's what our team does a good job of doing this year, because at the end of the day, that's really all we got. That's really all we got, you guys. But, you know, with expectations being low, I think we can have a much more comfortable viewing experience with our team this year than maybe the years past, where we had such expectations and fell so short. I don't think people even expect for us to win 50 games this year or 45 games this year. So if we happen to, voila, I mean, we should feel pretty good about that. And so that's kind of how I'm approaching it. I think we can go into it feeling a lot more comfortable than we felt because their expectations are not so high. Yeah, that's what it is. What else, man? I don't really have a whole lot to say, to be honest with you. I think I said it all over the last several days. Now we're just waiting for something to actually react to as it pertains to gameplay. The team is set to start training camp, and hopefully we can have some good luck on the health front in regards to guys that we're waiting on to come back. Christian Wood recovering from his second knee surgery of the summer. I don't love that situation. And of course, Vanderbilt, we're still waiting for a positive prognosis on his productivity in healing from that thing that he's gone through with the foot. That we kind of rushed him back from last year. And, you know, it just kind of caps off what you expect for him to be able to do out there. And so that's a bit of a concern for me, honestly, because if we happen to have him dissolve into nothing as it pertains to his value and his production, that's really hurtful for a team that already has a lack of value with so many things that have happened in that fashion in different ways. Guys getting traded away for half of what they're worth, walking away from the team, that kind of thing. The Russell Westbrook situation, as we talk about every day, he seems we can't afford Vando to not have any value when we traded for him with the intention of him being one of the most important pieces of our role situation. So, you know, we need him to come back healthy, and it may take a little longer than anybody's ready to wait for, to be honest with you. So I think that's a bit of a frustration for the franchise, and you know, that's one of many things that we just have to be patient about. So yeah, man, I would love to say the Lakers are getting ready to make a trade. We're gonna move on from Cam Reddish, Gabe Vincent, and bring in some real nice role play. But the reality is that's just not the reality of the situation, man. That's just not what we got going on. We got to start the season with what we have and more or less hope for the best, which, all things considered, if you're a Los Angeles Laker fan, you're not very excited about that aspect of the game. But there ain't nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about that. So that's kind of the frustration. I don't know that another GM would be able to do a better job than Rob Pelinka has done. I think another GM may be able to possibly convince Jeannie to take a risk that maybe she's not willing to take, maybe be a bit more persuasive in that regard. I don't know if the team would be better for it, to be honest with you. But that would be the game plan. If you want to make moves, you gotta convince her to do it. You know what I mean? And in being willing to make moves, you got to be willing to die on the sword of the bad move if it happens to come out bad. So I just think people are very conservative. It's the air of caution that I would lean on. And this is kind of how things would look, I think, if I were running things. Unfortunately, only I would be trying to persuade Jeannie to move on from Bron and AD so that it can make a lot more sense that we be conservative with our picks. And maybe even try to trade up those guys for picks so that we can have less of a need to be conservative with picks. But then again, you're also without Bron and AD, so your expectations for a championship go completely out the window. One could argue those expectations are, in fact, out the window, and I think that's the frustration. If you are of the mindset that this team ain't good enough to win, and it ain't responsible enough to make trades for yourself right now with those two picks, then that's really what it is. You don't have the best path to getting good enough, and that's equivalent to the fans as not having a team that's capable of really doing anything at all. So, you know what I mean, with our expectations as a franchise. So being mediocre, stuck in no man's land, is just not, it ain't really acceptable to the Laker Nation, to be honest with you. As a fan, I can essentially tell you that we've made a lot of mistakes that put us in a position to not be living up to our standards. That's what it comes down to. We've made decisions that don't allow us to live up to the standards of the franchise. And you know, if you want to blame folks for that, I don't blame you, you know, at the end of the day. But we do expect excellence. And we have capped ourselves off well below excellence. and we've put ourselves in a position to not to be able to get excellent. And that if we're looking at it the right way, should really be something that we want to see heads roll for, to be honest with you. But you know, there's a lot of things to take into account, a lot of context to understand. The team could not have foreseen the changes in the collective bargaining agreement. You could not have foreseen just how much of a failure Russell Westbrook would be. You could not have foreseen certain injury concerns. You know, there are a lot of things that you couldn't see coming. Maybe some things that we, depending on your point of view, would have done differently in regards to the draft last year, or, you know what I mean, certain things, little small around the margins moves. Maybe you would have been willing to do a thing or two that maybe would have left us with a more reliable source of talent. But those are simply just choices that were made by the people we kept in place. Maybe you can find a better deal than D'Lo, D'Lo, Vanderbilt, and what's the guy's name? Malik Beasley last year for Russell Westbrook. Maybe a different GM finds a way to get that done without throwing in a pick. You know, but that's the kind of stuff that really is the difference between probably bringing in a different GM and who you have right now. I don't think it would be things like what people think it would be, because the parameter is still the same and the environment is still the same. So whether Rob is the greatest at identifying where a discount may be or the greatest at keeping leverage in his pocket, I don't really know if that has as much to do with just it being difficult to move for really anybody in this situation. And the difficulties of trying to balance Bron and AD, who happen to play the same position, which we talk about a lot. So I always try to come here and be fair, and at the same time leave room for those who don't really have the patience to be fair, quite honestly. I feel both ways about it, basically. I see the truth. Truth is, it just wasn't in our best interest to make moves. It just wasn't in our best interest to go about trading every dang body for a role player and then, you know, risking the health process ultimately bottoming us out anyway. You could trade for a Kyrie Irving if you're able to, and then maybe injuries hit him and now your team is even more shallow because you gave away 3 pieces for 1. So it's like, it's a lot of different ways it can go. But I think when you have more upside pieces, the likelihood that one of them pops or turns into something very valuable increases the more diversified your value actually is found, if that makes any sense. So, you know, you rather have 8 high upside guys than maybe 1 semi-star when you don't have a lot of value. It's probably best to give yourself more chances of things being able to balloon. So I think the Lakers got it right. I think depth in our situation is probably better than 3-star lineup. And, you know, like I said, this is what it ends up looking like. This is what it kind of boils down to. Some things that maybe I would have loved to have not done, like giving Gabe Vincent that mid-level exception. Not a fan of that. I like the Rui trade, but we did give away quite a bit of second-round picks to get him. Maybe I would have worked around trying to get another second-round pick or 2 in the last draft. Maybe be trying to hunt around to see if I can acquire some second-round picks. Maybe placing phone calls to Atlanta and Utah to see if I can get my picks back, if at all possible, although I don't think it is. But these are the type of things that maybe I want to see Rob do over the next 6 months. I think it would be a super home run if we could reacquire one of those picks we've mortgaged away. You know what I mean? I really do. I think that would be a super home run for the franchise. So what do you do when you find yourself in a situation where you've mortgaged so much, but you don't have enough to make yourself good enough for that to make sense? You just got to live with it. Just got to live with it, man. And a lot of what it is that you hope would be possible, the reality is it's probably not possible. So you live with that. You put yourself in the strongest position to just start the season as healthy as you can and hope that some of the stuff that you've invested in could pay off in the long run. Gabe Vincent have a career year this year. D'Angelo Russell have a fantastic year this year. Austin Reeves take steps forward. Rui Hachimura take steps forward. Max Christie play very well with the role that he's going to be having. Dalton Connect get Rookie of the Year. These are the type of things, it's like, you hope for this. Jalen Hood-Schifino having a fantastic second year. This is stuff that you need to have happen. And a good, healthy year from Bron and AD is obviously the most important of it all. So, what you want to do? You know what I mean, Laker fans? These are the choices that were made around the circumstance. And if you hate those choices, it's kind of hard to undo those choices at this point. That Russell Westbrook thing, man, that's what it was. If anybody really wants to know what I think, I've said it before. I'll say it again. The Russell Westbrook thing really killed our timeline, man. It destroyed us. Him coming here at that price, playing that poorly, bottoming out, and then furthermore needing a pick to move on from him, killed the Bron and AD era, man. It killed it. It just killed it, bro. So whatever the problem really is, if you want to know the truth, the depth of your problem, the true issue you have is that you really need them picks back. Them 2 first-rounders that you gave up to both get and lose Russell Westbrook need to be in place right now for the leverage in order to bring yourself the crap that you ultimately really want. Those things are no longer in place. The requisite value is not realized in other players ballooning into better talent than what they're expected to be. And as a result, you're just as good as you are. Not very. So that is the problem, man. We got to have that value come back into our organization. We need Max Christie and Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, all those guys to play double what they're worth right now in order to make up for what is lost in those decisions. And that's the bottom line, man. That is the bottom line. So am I happy about all of this? No, bro. No, I'm not. I try to make very strong cases for why I need to just be fine with that. Because when you don't have a choice, you certainly shouldn't complain about spoiled milk, or spilt milk, rather. But the milk is spilled, for sure. And that's somebody's fault, man. That's somebody's fault, bro. And I don't know whose fault it is. A lot of people can blame Rob Pelinka. I think that's fair, since it is technically his responsibility to make sure all this stuff doesn't go as bad as it did. You can blame Jeannie Buss if you want. I don't know how much her decision-making played into some of those decisions that ultimately went poorly. You can blame Bron and AD for backing some of those decisions, or dare I say spearheading those decisions, but all of that is hearsay as far as I could tell. I don't really know how much Bron had to do with all of that. And so it's like, I don't really know who to blame. But what I can say is that we're not in a position to get good enough. It's most definitely someone's fault, bro. It really is. It's somebody's fault. And that's it. Also, the coaching situation, holding on to Darvin Ham, letting him drive us into the pits last year when he should have probably been let go halfway through the season. I think it really kind of capped off the enthusiasm of the unit. It ate away at some of the wins that were possible, I think. But it's hard to fire a guy when he wins the in-season tournament that same year. You know what I'm saying? That's also part of it. An undefeated in-season tournament kind of bought him some time. And so at least we celebrated that. I mean, if you want to point out something to have celebrated, we were definitely happy to have won that. How much does that count? You know what I mean? So these are the type of things that just lower the overall standards of the Los Angeles Lakers, for which most of us who have been Laker fans for a long time resent. We really do. We resent it. And so that's my point of view. That's how I see it. Trying to cope with not being good enough and not having a path to getting good enough within theory, but also trying to have hope in regards to some of my young players getting good enough to change that. You know, some of our guys can really get a lot better, changing the complete dynamic of our team. Imagine what Jalen Hood-Schifino looks like if suddenly he's a fantastic starting guard in this league. Imagine what Dalton Knecht looks like if he's a 20-point scorer shooting 42% from behind the arc. You know, imagine what Rui Hachimura looks like if he shoots above 40% from the three and above 55% from the field and defends well. Like, these are things that look like they're obtainable. Imagine what Austin Reeves looks like if he steps into a potential all-star range. If he turns into like a Derek White type of talent. Like that's the type of stuff that is not entirely out of the question. So while we're down and out as it pertains to our value, very easily, if these things go the right direction, suddenly you got more value than you had before you made that decision. to take on Russell Westbrook. So that's kind of what we need to see. The Lakers need to start the season. Some things need to really go right in that regard. JJ Redick's responsible for getting the most out of these guys. It's his job to make sure that we see maximum value for all of our young talent that's yet underdeveloped. You know, get the most out of Toure. You know, that type of thing. Turn Castleton into something, bro. That type of stuff. That's really what the Lakers need. And then we'll be in the strongest position to trade them dudes once somebody actually wants them. And we can go after that big fish that y'all want, or go after old picks that we gave away. That's the type of stuff that's going to ultimately give you the value to make that happen. So that should be the overall objective for our franchise. And if we're able to accomplish that, or get lucky, I should say, in those ways, then look out. Look out, because then the Lakers could back, basically. So long as Bron and AD don't go the wrong way while all that is happening, which is also something we really have to consider, given Bron's age and AD's history. So, yeah, man, a lot of teetering on things going ways that maybe they're not expected to go. And that leaves us, if you balance it all the way out, to just being average. So, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. That's pretty much all I got to say. I think I'll leave myself some juice in terms of my battery. But I appreciate everybody for allowing me to recap over old content for which all of this has already been said. But felt like talking right now, so that's what I got. BL44, thank y'all for watching. I'm out.